then if you are ready, Bridget, I can get started with the introduction of the series. Thank you all for coming, everyone who's on Zoom and in the Facebook Live, and anyone who's potentially watching after we film this live. I am Kate. I'm the Director of Environment Maryland. And this series was sort of born out of the desire to allow people the opportunity to connect not only with each other, but also with nature in the time of COVID-19. So months ago now, what even is time? Months ago, Bridget and I had this conversation about, what is something that we can provide that allows people a space for conversation, but also a space to connect to topics and people and experts that you otherwise never would. We're sitting here with Zoro, the peregrine falcon, and in what world would that ever have been possible? So Conservation Conversations basically serves this purpose of allowing us the space to come together, but also allowing us to reconnect to nature and shift our perspective on new topics. So it has been such a pleasure to be leading these since April, and we're so glad you're all with us. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Bridget to introduce our guests, and as always, we'll save time at the end for questions. So if you think of questions throughout, you can put them in the Q&A or in the chat on Facebook, and we'll get to them at the end. So Bridget, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Kate. So as Kate said, I'm Bridget Sanderson. I'm the Director of Environment Missouri based out of Kansas City. And I'm so excited to have Kimberly on today. It's going to be a very exciting, special 4th of July themed conservation conversations. And so, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and dive right into it. So originally from Erie, Pennsylvania, and graduate of Slippery Rock University with a Bachelor of Science in Biology and Environmental Science, Kimberly started out in the zoological field as an animal keeper with the Erie Zoological Society. Through public programming with live animals, she combined animal husbandry and conservation education. Programming was comprised for all ages through numerous forums focusing on endangered species and their respective conservation issues. Kimberly is currently a Kansas City, Missouri Parks and Recreation employee, which I love, and the director of Lakeside Nature Center. In existence since 1966, Lakeside offers animal displays, environmental conservation programming, and rehabilitation for native Missouri wildlife. Today, they are in a beautiful building designed for children of all ages in order to help them to learn, discover, and explore. In 1983, Lakeside started its wildlife rehabilitation hospital and has since grown into one of the largest all-native inclusive wildlife rehab hospitals in the state, with an average yearly intake of 3,300 animals. Lakeside is the only nature center of its kind in Missouri, combining conservation, educational programming, display and education animals, and wildlife rehab. Kimberly is an avid hiker and kayaker with a love for the natural environment and every creature in it. She believes that nature can heal the human heart and feed the soul. So Kimberly, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. I'm just gonna let you kind of go ahead and dive in. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what got you into animal rehab, and a little bit about Lakeside Nature Center.
All right, well, thank you very much. And that was quite a mouthful. I should have shortened that up a little. So thank you for having me on. This is amazing. So I'm really excited about this opportunity. So is Zoro, even though he won't look at anyone. There's something behind me that really has his interest. But I'll talk about myself a little bit here. Like you said, I started out in the animal field as an animal keeper. And I moved up the ladder to Lakeside, and I'm the director there. I've been the director there for about 11 years. And it is an amazing journey. It's been wonderful. The things we do at Lakeside are just amazing. The staff and the volunteers that put in this time and energy for all of these creatures, they're just wonderful. We do at Lakeside with our rehab, it's anything native Missouri, but that's a lot of different animals. So if it's rabbits and chipmunks and possums, raccoons, the whole thing. But we do a lot of birds of prey. Quite a few, in fact. Missouri has a very large population of hawks, eagles, owls, and falcons. There's all of them in there. And then, I'm sorry, I almost forgot vultures, quite a few vultures. So we get a wide variety of species coming through our doors. Now, I'll give you a little history on Zoro here. Here, bud. Zoro came to us about 6 years ago, and he was a first-year bird, and he's actually a tundra subspecies. Now, peregrine falcons, they have different subspecies found here in North America. There's 3 of them. There's the tundra subspecies, which kind of tells you what it is. They're from the tundra, but they migrate south. When he was migrating, now this is all, we suppose this, we did not see this, actually, but when he was migrating during a hunt, we believe he actually clipped a wing. Let's see if they'll show you. Can you give me wings? I have them tied to myself, so there we go. If you can see, his one wing is very short. This isn't a common accident, but it's probably more than people think. Peregrine falcons dive very fast. We all know this. They're the fastest species on Earth. And unfortunately, power lines and things like that are not in their natural history, so they don't naturally see them. We believe he actually caught a power line and amputated his wing from the wrist down. Luckily for him, there were people hiking nearby and found him very quickly and brought him to us. Since he was a first-year bird, he was basically a baby. We started working with him immediately. He's non-releasable. That's one thing I'd like to really point out. Lakeside is all about getting animals back into the wild. We don't keep anything that is releasable because that's our ultimate goal. So Zoro was non-releasable. So the first day he came in, we started working with him with human beings to get him accustomed to us and actually trust us, and that's how we can work with him. So he's about 6 years old now, and we know he's a tundra species for one reason. He's actually very small. The ones you're going to find here in Missouri and actually along the East Coast and that are going to be larger. Their subspecies is called anatom, and they're quite a bit bigger than he is. He's a little fella, and I know he's a he because, again, in birds of prey, mostly the males are smaller than the females. Females are almost about a third larger, and so we do know he's a male and that he's the tundra species. So a little bit more about their natural history. I love peregrine falcons just because they're so amazing. These are the athletes of the bird world. They truly are. What they do is, as they're bird eaters, so they hunt other birds. And so they'll naturally, if we had nothing else here, no buildings here, they would live in cliffs and things way high up, or they live on the tops of buildings since we now have cities. And what it is, when they see a bird, or when they're flying, they see the bird and they tuck their feathers or their wings and they pull their feet in and they let gravity pull them. And they can reach up to 200 miles per hour in a stoop. That's what it's called. So they come up on the bird as they're falling to the earth, basically. They pull up their wings. They're kind of like air brakes. And they pull out their feet and they punch the bird. So as they punch the bird, it knocks it unconscious. And then the peregrine falcon, as the bird is spiraling down, comes around underneath it and catches it before it hits the ground. So they're not only speed demons, they're acrobats. So these birds are just amazing to watch in the wild. If anyone gets a chance to do it, it's just one of the most astronomical things I've ever seen. So that's what they do in flight, and they're kind of built for that. I know I can't get him too close, but they have very long toes. If you could see, they have very long toes and very sharp talons. Their wings are built differently than hawks. There's actually a V shape in their wings, and they even have in their noses, when they're coming down, say imagine you're a race car driver, right? And you decide to stick your head out at 200 miles per hour. You can't breathe. There's too much wind in your face. So peregrine falcons have a little flap that closes their nostrils so air doesn't go in and choke them. So it's just amazing. They're built for this. They also have a nictitating membrane that covers their eyes that protects them during flight. So the whole thing is they're like little fighter pilots, basically, with their own homemade jet plane. So it's kind of interesting. They vary a lot from your hawks and your eagles. And with that, all of your falcons in North America, we have merlins, we have kestrels, these guys, prairie falcons. There's quite a few different species, and most of them have the mustache. Oh, don't you bite me. The mustache is right here, as he keeps nibbling on me here. And that kind of helps with the sun. As they're hunting and things, just like football players. they put the black under their eyes, it helps absorb some of the light, and it helps them see better. So it's just kind of, I love these guys. They're just so amazing. And unfortunately, like so many species in the world, they are a threatened species. Now, this is in North America and in specific states. Believe it or not, peregrine falcons are found all over the world. And in some countries, they're very populous. Unfortunately here, as elsewhere, we've done a lot of construction. We've built cities, we've torn down their natural habitats, we've populated things. So what has happened is they've lost nesting sites. In the 90s, 80s and 90s, their populations plummeted, and they were actually considered endangered species in many states. We've had a really awesome conservation plan put in place here in Missouri and in other states that has brought them back. What we do, we work with Missouri Department of Conservation and USDA, and we put nest boxes in really high places is what it is. There's the Commerce Building in Kansas City, Missouri. It's one of the taller buildings. There's nest boxes there. We've gone to the power plants, and they're huge smokestacks, per se. We've put nests there. And these nest boxes, we bring in the peregrines that naturally live here and give them a place to rear their young that's safe. And I believe Missouri has had, this past year, it was 16 nests that were put up. I could be wrong, that might be 18. I apologize for that, because I know they put up a few new nests, and most all of them have been successful in rearing their young. So it's really wonderful that they're bringing these birds back to their natural territories. And this is happening in many different states with many different conservation agencies. So it's a wonderful thing that people love these guys and they want to help them. And it's such a positive thing that the governments and the people can get together and do this. So I wanted to bring something good to the table tonight. So the peregrines are doing really well, and Lakeside helps out. I've got the opportunity to help band these guys, which is really, their little babies are adorable. And we also help because not all of the fledglings can make it. Some of them are a little weak. They have 3 to 4 eggs. And when you have 4 eggs and you're a bird, that's a lot of mouths to feed. So sometimes some of them are weak. Well, we help. People will bring us the birds, and then we help feed them, get them back on their feet. We have large flight pens where they can exercise, and we can get them back to their families before they migrate. And that way the parents can actually pick up where they left off, teach them to hunt, teach them to, build up muscle. And then these guys can join their families and then continue their lives as falcons. So it's kind of neat. So that's him. And you can stop me if you have questions, please. Because I could just talk forever about birds.
I have a Zoro specific question, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
You mentioned that he's smaller, he's a tundra bird, and excuse me if this is completely a silly question, but how did he get to Missouri?
They migrate. He was actually migrating through. Yes, yeah. Okay. They don't stay all year in the tundra, so when they migrate south, he just happened, he came from Knobnoster area, which is a little southeast, I believe. I hope I'm right on there. Since I'm from Pennsylvania, I sometimes get mixed up there. And it's a really great hiking area. So that's why when he was migrating through, he got injured. Yep. So
sorry, I totally have a question too.
Yes, please.
I was looking at the Lakeside Nature Center website, of course, which everybody should go and look at. They have a great list of all the animals that are in rehab.
Yes, we do.
But it said on there at one point, and you kind of touched on this as well, that peregrines were essentially almost eradicated in Eastern North America.
Yes.
And we've done a lot of, Kate and I personally have done a lot of work on pesticide use, and it said that it had to do with pesticides. So I was kind of curious about that a little bit.
It is, if you go back in the 70s and DDT, honestly, that is one of the biggest things that has hurt every species of birds of prey. It just decimated populations of everything from peregrines to eagles to kestrels, red tails. Even your owl species suffered from it. You know what I mean? Just when we use these pesticides and these herbicides and things, and they get into the environment, when you reach the top predator, it is so concentrated in what they're eating that it is horrible for these birds. We do a lot of publicizing if you have rodent problems, not to use a lot of your, I don't want to name brand names because I don't want anyone to come down on it, your rodenticides, that type of thing. Because if these guys eat them, you can often have secondary poisoning. So that's a big problem, and it will kill the birds also. We've seen that. We've had birds come in with different poisonings from rodenticides, but or sprayings with herbicides, that type of thing. So we really do promote natural pest control. We say black rat snakes are great to have around because if you don't like mice, you want a black rat snake around. They're going to eat all your mice. You know, so there's natural ways to do this. And historically, yes, the pesticides and things like that have really knocked many, many species of birds of prey down to almost nothing. The eagles is another very successful story. Believe it or not, the bald eagle is the most highly populated protective species on Earth. They're now everywhere because we saw what we were doing wrong and we fixed it. So, I mean, there is hope for us. I would like to think we are able to fix our mistakes. And that's the one thing I really want to put out there is we can fix this stuff. We can turn the tide and bring these guys back because we need them.
I actually had another question that was based on something you said earlier, but ties into this piece. You mentioned that for some of them, 4 mouths is a lot of mouths to feed. And I wonder with everything that's happening with the pesticides and development and habitat destruction, in your work, are you seeing that it's becoming harder for them to find the food they need? Is that becoming increasingly difficult? Are you seeing more of those cases?
Unfortunately, generally speaking, in birds of prey, mortality rate is very, very high in first-year birds. You're looking at almost 70 to 75%. And most of it is due to malnutrition. Not being able to hunt is another thing. We have roads. Again, when I said power lines are not in their natural history, if you take owls or hawks and you see them along the roads, cars are not in their natural history. They don't recognize them as a threat. So they will literally fly in front of your vehicle to get prey. They're not even looking at you. So that's one thing. And hunting along roads is very common for all birds of prey because there's a lot of rodents that live in that area. So they can't find food because we're using pesticides and such. 2, there's all these dangers that they have to deal with. Even if you have residential birds, urbanization is taking place. We're moving everywhere. And now you have Cooper's hawks. They hunt at our bird feeders now. Cooper's hawks are bird eaters again. They found this great buffet because we're feeding songbirds. And we get a lot of calls. People are so angry that these Cooper's hawks are killing the songbirds. But we try to explain to them, yes, I understand. I love cardinals. I love all the songbirds. But the Cooper's hawk has to eat also, and you just so happen to serve it up to him on a plate is what you did. So we like to teach people to live with the wildlife in their backyard. If we're going to move out there, if we're going to build our houses on their house, then we need to live with them because they've already learned to live with us. So that's one of the big things we teach. So, and if other birds of prey, like we have Cooper's hawks that are very urban now, we're seeing more and more owl species. Barred owls are very common here in Missouri, and they're very urban. They've learned to live with us. And then you have a lot more of your woodland species, your great horned owls. Barn owls are another one that actually were becoming more and more common because we had more barns. Now you're talking back in the 1800s to the 50s. We had a lot of barns and shacks, things like that. Well, this was perfect for barn owls, and they started living everywhere. And then we tore the barns down, and they had nowhere to reproduce or have their nests. Their populations plummeted. So what we've done is now we're putting up boxes where barn owls can breed. They're cavity dwellers. So you can see in different places that their populations are also going up. Do you have more questions or anything, or?
I actually have a question about barn owl, just because one of my neighbors, this is very a personal question, has an owl in their backyard that hoots during the day. And I thought that that was fascinating. And I tried to do like a quick Google search about it. And so this could be completely uneducated, but I'm pretty sure that it said that it was barn owls are starting to come out and be active during the day in Missouri. Is that correct?
Actually, believe it or not, most owls can be very active during the day, and it is species specific. Your barred owls, I know it sounds like barred, but the barred owls, the most common ones, are actually very active at dusk or before dusk. Each one has a specific niche, and it comes back to that hawks and eagles, falcons, they hunt during the day, like early hours when your owls are sleeping, but then around 3-4 o'clock, you'll have barred owls coming out, barn owls coming out, and then later on in the night, you'll have your great horns. So each one of the species has a specific time they hunt in. And of course, they do overlap. We have a breeding pair of barred owls by my house here. And about 2 o'clock in the morning, all of a sudden, you'll hear them start calling and all the babies. It's really amazing. But then again, that's an urban environment. Once you get out more rural, you'll have more great horned owls, and they're actually very, very territorial. Your great horns are probably your apex predator around here in the skies, even more so than eagles. When we get eagles in and we get great horns in, I am far more, I'm not afraid of great horns, obviously, because we work with them, but I am very, very careful because they will come at your face. They are not afraid of you. And like I said, great horns are the apex predators. I'd much rather handle an eagle, which is much larger than a great horned owl. So great horns will take out all other species that are in their area. So if you have barred owls coming in at night and things like that, they'll actually kill the barred owls. Or barn owls, yeah, they're very, very aggressive, very territorial. It's how they survive, though. You know, they're just wonderful hunters. Owls are pretty amazing. Actually, the other bird I was going to bring is a great horned owl. His name is Storm. He's our newest bird we have. He's a juvenile. In fact, he hatched out in February. And we have him because there was a bad storm and him and his sibling fell out of a nest. Unfortunately, Storm had a severe fracture to his humerus, and he won't be able to fly. So he came home to live with me for a good month and a half, and now he's amazing. He's one of our education birds. And but owls in general, as much as he's built to fly and the speed and you know, hunt during the day, owls are meant to hunt at night. They have the really large eyes so they can see at night. They have huge ears, and their sense of hearing is better than any of the other birds. So it's kind of interesting how they can hunt solely by sound because it's dark. Their feathers are specially made to muffle sound. They're fringed on the edges. So when they fly, they're silent flyers. So everything about them is they're made to hunt at night. You know, it's really kind of interesting.
So that fact just blew my mind.
Okay.
That's the most insane. I'm learning so much. And it made me want to ask this other question. Just in this, 20 minutes, I've learned more in 28 years of life. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your education. You mentioned your education birds. I'd love to hear more about the way Lakeside Nature Center's education programs work.
We do programs. People usually call us and schedule programs. But when I say of all ages, honestly, we have programs for kids that are 1, 2, and 3 years old to people that are 101, 2, 3 years old. What we do is we bring our animals out. Now, we don't only have birds. We have a coyote. We have possums, squirrels, snakes, turtles, frogs, the whole thing. We kind of try to get a good general consensus of mammals, reptiles, birds. And we bring them in, except the coyote. He cannot come into the classroom. We take people out to him more than that. But we bring him in and we get people up close and personal. We introduce them to them. And I think that makes all the difference in the world. There is a lot of there's still a lot of controversy with captive animals. There is, and rightfully so. I do come from the zoological field. The zoo I worked for was amazing. They took very, very good care of their animals, and it's focused on their animals. It's not focused on money. But there are the zoos and things that are focused more on the money than things. So I'm not saying that all zoos are good. I'm saying we need them because of the state of the world that we're in and the education they provide. One of the neatest things is you can take these animals into a program, and it might be 10 kids to 60 kids, and everyone gets quiet. They're just amazed that all of a sudden you're up close to a peregrine falcon. When does that happen? And once you introduce these kids or these adults to these birds, it clicks. These things are alive, and they're important. And they start to love the animals. And that's what makes the whole difference, is this up close and personal experience. And I just love to see kids when their faces are just like, wow, this is amazing. And then the questions start coming. And they're so interested in it that they want to learn. And that's the best part about our education, is I love seeing the kids when they want to learn. You know, it's pretty neat. We also take kids on hikes, and that's actually a lot of fun, because some of these kids don't, it's the first time a lot of them are in the woods, because we do have a very urban clientele. And then all of a sudden they just light up, and the nature around them interests them so much, it just gets them excited. And then you'll see them come back time again. They'll bring their families, and it just propagates it. So I do love the educational aspect, if you didn't notice. Yeah.
I'm also a big proponent of like early, environmental and wildlife education. Those were like the most, formative things that I remember from when I was, younger as well, and kind of how I believe that I got to where I am at this point. Just to backtrack a little bit, I am a little bit curious about how Lakeside Nature Center, because it does kind of seem like a very special, unique situation, specifically in Missouri, how that kind of came about.
It was a long time coming. Back in the 60s, like I said, it was a nature center itself, in a very small building. They had some reptiles, things like that. But the educational part was there. And we also have a camp associated with us. It's called Camp Lake of the Woods. And up until the 90s, it was a huge summer camp for kids across state lines even. Kansas, Missouri, all sorts of kids used to come to this. It was huge. Unfortunately, with everything else in the world, there's not enough staffing to maintain it. So we no longer have a summer camp. Campfire USA, though, has taken over that part for us. So they still have summer camp, but the kids don't stay there. And that was kind of one of the really big things. These, you see it on all the old television shows. The kids go to camp for a week. Well, we used to do that. So it started out as a small nature center and then the camp. And from there, in the 80s, we have Friends of Lakeside Nature Center. They started helping us, and they're an awesome volunteer agency. Well, they started bringing in the wildlife rehab aspect. And we had home rehabbers that took babies home for us. And then all of the birds of prey have to stay with us. It's a licensed thing. We're actually licensed through U.S. Fish and Wildlife to have these birds and do education. And from there, it has simply grown in leaps and bounds to where we're at today. And we take in probably more animals than, I don't know anybody else's numbers, but I'd say we're probably one of the biggest in Missouri, and that many animals. Not a lot of rehab facilities take in all species. And that's one thing we do, and it does become a little, it's hard. It's very hard when you have 50 raccoons to take care of, along with 30 rabbits and 20 possums, and then your adult animals on top of that. Some of the animals we get in are very broken. They need a lot of medical care, and we work with some of the local vets that help us out, but most of it is volunteer and staff. We have a very small staff that does it, along with education. So like I said, I have to shout out to my staff. They're amazing people, and my volunteers couldn't exist without them. So that's how we grew.
So you, that's such an amazing story. And it's interesting to think that the concept of sleepaway camp might be dwindling. I went. Bridget, did you go to sleepaway camp? Oh, well, my question is based on you were talking about, that was what struck me looking through your website, was that you take so many different species. And I wonder if there is a particular species that you see most often.
With birds, we get along a lot of songbirds in right now, a lot of baby birds, robins, your basics, you know, your robins, your grackles. This year we're getting in a lot of blue jays. And so it's, well, excuse him, it happens. So every year it actually changes a little bit. I get used to it. I'll have to clean my carpet later, but oh well. Every year it changes a little bit. This year we got in quite a few red-shouldered hawks through our rehab that were babies. A lot of kestrels every year. Now, if you're talking baby mammals, raccoons, possums, squirrels, and bunnies. I mean, literally, we do hundreds and hundreds of them every year. So there's a lot. And we actually turn away probably 3 times as many animals as we take in, because we're educating people that most of these animals are not abandoned. Their mothers are there, but they're not going to come up to you because they're afraid of you. So leave them on where they're at, and mothers will take them. It's fawn season right now. And people will see a baby fawn hiding in the grass. Well, that's where the mother left it. And we'll talk to people and educate them and say, nope, you give it 24 hours. And 9 times out of 10, the fawn is gone because the mother has come and picked it up. Same with baby bunnies. Everybody finds baby bunnies and wants to bring them in to save them. And we actually send most of them back out and say, nope, that mother rabbit does a much better job than we do. And it's educating people. Okay. Educating people that wildlife really do belong in the wild, you know, and it's really good-hearted people. They want to help. They want to do something good. And, but yeah, a little education, and they realize, nope, they're better off there. That's right. There you go. He disagrees. So, but yeah, we take in, we'll have people bring us in mice. Little baby mice. That's how we say. We do everything from mice to bobcats, robins to falcons, and we even do venomous snakes, to believe it or not. We have gone out and saved venomous snakes. So everything in the environment has its place. And I know we're not saving the baby bunny population. I know we're not making a dent in the raccoons or things like that. But getting out there and teaching people, again, about the wildlife in their backyard, about how these guys survive, and getting people interested and educated is the biggest thing we do.
I know Bridget has a question. I have a quick follow-up question. Is that okay, Bridget? So the deer, the fawn example, I got a frantic call from my mom a few nights ago that there was a deer in the yard. Mom was gone. There's no way she's going to come get the baby. It's too close to the house. And I said, leave it, you know, it's going to come back. But the debate we got into was, if you touch the fawn, there is a maybe it's an old wives' tale, I don't know, that if you touch it, mom will not come back for it. True, false?
That's actually false. It is an old wives' tale. It's what we tell our kids so they don't go out and play with wild animals, basically. If you touch it, mom will come back, it'll die, you know. But no, when we touch it, mom will come back and she'll think her baby stinks. She will clean it and take it with her. And even baby birds, believe it or not, most birds have no sense of smell. So even if you touch baby birds, the parents have no idea. Turkey vultures are actually one of the only birds that has a sense of smell. They use it to hunt with, so yeah. You're okay. He's getting a little agitated here. I gotta.
Oh, we do have a couple of questions on the Facebook that I'm going to ask right now. One person, it does seem, came on a little bit late and said, tell us more about the cute birds. So do you just want to reintroduce her really fast?
I will, if I can get him to turn around here. This is Zoro, and he's our peregrine falcon. He will not turn around for me. Come on, bud. There you go. Oh, now you're going to be angry. There he is. Zoro is about 6 years old, and we got him when he was a first-year bird. And if anyone did not see, let's see if I can show you why he's with us. Come here. Can you show your wings? I'm going to untie him here for a second. Hopefully I'll stay on camera. but he will show his wings. We've trained him to do that because it's one of the things we show. We don't keep healthy animals. Again, I said that earlier. If anything is releasable, we release it. That's where they belong. Here, bud. If you notice his wing is, oh, he will not show you. Like, there we go. The right wing is very short. It's because it was amputated actually in flight during a hunt, and that is why he's with us. So, I'm not sure how much you want me to go into detail again, but
no,
this
that's
is
great.
cool.
He's just, you know, such a little superstar that we just had to get it back out there. Another question that we have, I think that this is just more of like, is this natural behavior? But there was a baby crow in my yard for almost a week, and the mother just yelled at him from the trees above. Do you have suggestions?
The mother killed it, did you say?
Sorry, the mother just yelled at him from the tree above.
It kind of depends. Now, birds become fledglings, and they don't stay in their nests. This is part of their life cycle. They jump to the ground. It's when they're learning to fly and they can't fly. And most often, the parents will come to the ground and they will continue feeding them. However, nature's not always nice. If there is something wrong with an animal, the parents will abandon it. It's simply survival. Survival of the fittest is true. If they have 3 other babies to take care of, they will take care of the strong ones, and that does happen. And then that's where we come in sometimes. We tell people with baby birds especially, watch it. If the parents are there and the parents are feeding it, leave it be, because that's what's supposed to happen. Now, if you don't see any parents and it becomes weaker, then go ahead, catch it up and bring it to us, and then that's where we can step in and help. You're okay.
We have a question oh, go ahead, sorry.
Kate, I have one more question about that. And Kimberly, you may have mentioned this and I might have missed it, but at Lakeside Nature Center, do you guys mostly do people bringing the animals to you, or do you ever do it where you guys would go to a location and pick up an animal?
We have done rescues. We don't usually do rescues, however. We have people bring them to us if they find them. Animal controls from different communities will bring them to us, or government agencies. U.S. Fish and Wildlife has brought us things. Sorry. It's all right, buddy. You're okay. You're okay. Missouri Department of Conservation. It depends on the species. Most of our babies come from people finding them and bringing them to us. Now we at Lakeside, there's actually this really cool thing that my staff has developed called the Raptor Task Force, and we put babies back in their nests. So this past year, oh gosh, probably 25 different birds, owls, hawks, kestrels, a whole bunch of them. We've actually got them back into their nests, and the parents are wonderful. The parents of these owls and hawks and things, they want their babies. So once you get them back into those nests, they pick right up and take over. We even do fostering. If we've had a bunch of owls that were abandoned, we can take them, we find nests with the same age siblings, we sneak up and pop the baby in and leave, and the parents are just like, where'd you come from? Oh, well, let's feed you. And they're really good parents. And so we can actually foster out babies also, and the parents will naturally take care of them. So, but that's actually really nice, because that way we keep them out of the center. And no matter what, if you have animals in rehab and they interact with people a lot, there's going to be some, especially if they're babies, they're going to be accustomed to people somewhat. Even though we don't play with them, we don't socialize them in any way, it just happens. So if we can get babies back out into the wild with foster parents or their real parents, that's the first thing we do.
That's amazing. Foster parent.
Yes.
That was a new concept. That's amazing. So we have 2 questions in here now. And I'm going to start with the one that's related to this. Someone says, do you guys go back to check if they do take in the foster baby? Yes. Are there follow-up welfare checks? Oh yes, there's quite a few. With our team, I like that. Are there follow-ups? That's good. No, we keep if they're on people's home properties, we work with the people who live there, and they'll send us pictures back and forth. Otherwise, with our Raptor task force,
we travel and we check on the babies.
That's great. And I'm going to add this quick question. I know we're running out of time. The success, it sounds like the success rate of that is really high, of the Raptor Task Force.
Yes, it's been wonderful this year. It just has bloomed. It was 2 weeks ago, we actually put up a new nest for some broadwing hawks. And we're getting the community involved. Evergy, the local energy company, paired up with us and brought their bucket trucks out so we could get these birds back into their nest. So, you know, KC Parks adds, because they send the staff out, Lakeside Nature, it's just this huge gathering of people that really want to do good. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So this other question is, we're going to go from feel good to the harsh realities of nature.
That's all right.
It says, will they eat anything other than birds? I think this was back when you were talking about how they punch and catch.
Yes.
Any
Not
reports of them
unless
eating
they have
pets?
to.
Okay.
Oh, what's that? I'm sorry?
The second part was, are there any reports of them eating people's pets?
Not peregrine falcons. Unless you have a parakeet that gets out, they're pretty safe. Peregrines and your bird eaters, they will eat mice and things like that if they have to, but they naturally don't hunt them. They're not adept at hunting them. Now, hawks, eagles, things like that. Hold on, please. You're okay. You're okay. Again, they really aren't adept at hunting small dogs and things, so they won't do it. Now, great horned owls, yes. They do not know the difference between a Pomeranian and a rabbit. It doesn't happen very often, but it can. Actually, great horned owls are one of the only species that will hunt skunks. I told you, they're the apex predators. So yes, they will hunt cats, and there are times they will hunt dogs. Not because they're a dog or a cat, because they resemble a prey species that they would take. That's all.
Okay, we will try to wrap it up. I do have one more question, but it seems like Zoro might be done with this. So we'll try to wrap it up pretty quickly. One more question is just, how much does Zoro eat each day?
We actually, we purchase quail, and that, so he gets 90 grams of quail a day. We do have to watch his weight. He does a better job than I do. But because he can't fly, we have to watch his weight. He would actually, his feet would have problems if he got too heavy. So we weigh out 90 grams of bird, whichever it is, and that's what he eats a day.
That's
I need someone to do that for me.
Same. Okay, well, so thank you again so much for coming on. One question that Kate and I usually end these on are just, what can everybody, little Zoro's just done with this, what can everybody do to help you with any type of raptor rehabilitation or any type of work that we can do to help out with our birds of prey?
Well, we always take volunteers. You just call the center and we can give you information on that. And we also have a wish list. So if anybody's interested in our wish list, please visit our website, lakesidenaturecenter.org, or our Facebook page, anything like that. And we have wish lists for people to donate stuff. And just go out and enjoy nature. How's that? Go out and watch these guys. Yeah.
And thank your friendly neighborhood rat snake.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
So I put the link for all of our participants on Zoom. I put the link to Lakeside Nature Center's website in the chat, so you can click on that, go check out their wish list, check out more about their work. Kimberly, I have learned more than it's going to take me a little bit to process through everything I've just learned. Zoro, pleasure to meet you. Bridget, I'll turn it over to you to wrap us up.
Yeah, again, Kimberly, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate you and all of the work that you do.
Thank you.
This was very fascinating.
Good.
Again, if you like any of the work that we're doing, get to Lakeside Nature Center's wish list or consider donating or volunteering for them. Also consider donating to Environment Missouri and Environment Maryland.
Yep.
And again, Kimberly, thank you so much. And thank you everybody for joining us for Conservation Conversations this week.
Thank you.
See you all next week. Thank you, Kimberly.
Hi, Zoro.
See you later.